I'm Heather from booktubes, and today is my July wrap-up. In July I read 20 books. I DNF'd 3 of them, and so I'm going to talk about 17. This is my lowest reading month to date since starting my channel, so that's fun. And also, just so you know, there was a lot of pretty low ratings from me, so let's start, shall we? First I read, or I should say I reread, Ruse Volume 1. It's Enter the Detective. It is a graphic novel. I don't know if it was like a serial or a comic or whatever, and you can't really get your hands on it very easily, so your best bet would probably be your library or interlibrary loan. I read this as a kid and it stuck with me, and it almost seems like a bind up of like weekly comic releases, but like as much as I've listened to Ashley from Bookish Realm, I still don't really know what I'm talking about, so that's just kind of my guess from what I was seeing. It's kind of like a paranormal Sherlock Holmes type story, with the sidekick being a female who they have like some tension happening between the two of them, but she's not a witch, I don't think. We really don't know, at least not in the first 2, which is all I've read. She definitely has paranormal powers of some sort, and he doesn't know about it. So I give it 4 stars. There's some delightful misogyny type lines and depictions, I guess. It's definitely created by men, and if you're not into alpha holes, you probably wouldn't be into it. But I found it to be very interesting, and then I read for the first time Ruse Volume 2, which is The Silent Partner. I gave this 4 stars. It does use the word gypsy to refer to a group that they run across, and their women have been taken by this odd town for breeding purposes, but nothing actually happened to them. They were just kept in the basement until they were rescued, which seems odd, but they did refer to them as gypsies, which is a slur and you shouldn't use it, so. And overall, I would say that the story in the first one was more interesting. This one, we are kind of going head to head with his ex-partner, assistant, mentor dude, who is now evil and hates him. There you go. Then I read A Touch of Stone and Snow by Milla, Vane. This is a Gathering of Dragons 2. It's a fantasy romance. I gave it 5 stars. It was in my Reading My Physical TBR vlog. I adored it. It's friends to lovers, second chance. She is a warrior. He is a feral prince of their people. People have a lot of rules and archaic traditions and requirements that have kind of ruined their lives, these two particularly, and that they would like to see done away with, but they really don't have the power for that. And it's their reunion in a jungle when they are from an icy land. And he has a giant magical saber-toothed tiger type of cat who hates everyone but the two of them, and is super duper cute. Loved him. She definitely deals with alcoholism and also kind of suicidal ideation. She doesn't want to commit suicide, but she wants to die in a way that will clear her name so her family doesn't live in shame, and that's the only reason why she's still alive, because she's waiting on that glorious moment kind of to go out in. So there is that as a content warning. But overall, the yearning, the adoration, there was no third act breakup. It was 2 people who really truly loved each other, and circumstances are what had kept them apart up to this point. They are dual virgins. They had promised themselves to each other. Neither one had broken that vow, even though she's been exiled and they haven't seen each other in years. I loved it. It was another great book in the series. And I read Cutie and the Beast Volume 2 also for that vlog. I gave it 5 stars. It's just a super cute age gap manga. Nothing explicit has happened in any way. She is a high school senior and he is a pro wrestler, and she's his #1 fan. In this volume, she definitely has an issue with his fans kind of taking all of his attention when they're in public and feeling insecure about it. She's young, so I mean, we'll excuse it. Then, also in that vlog, I read Koyn by Webster. I gave it 1 star. I absolutely hated it. Every plot point in this book is rape. So, know that. There's incest rape, there's rape and murder of loved ones in front of you. There is continued rape, there's, captive rape, and then there's a lot of kind of dubious consent between the hero and the heroine, and he is projecting his dead daughter onto her, and they have a weird daddy kink because of it, which is really not what daddy kink is at all, but it's very much her trying to trigger his remembrance of his daughter so that he won't be so awful to her, and also he wants to sleep with her. So it was, I thought, very poor representation of daddy kink. Everything in this is rape. She's run away. He returns her to her family after drugging her and taking her without ever talking to her about why she left. And after he returns her, this is later in the book, you know, she's raped multiple times until he gets her again. When he gets her again, he is viewing her as a traitor and as the enemy because she is the daughter of the enemy, and because he watched someone who he knows is a rapist leave her bedroom, so he assumes that she was consensual. Just made me so incredibly angry. I'm just I hate it. I hate it a lot. I hated the hero. Like, he could choke and die and I would not care. I didn't like any of the other men in his motorcycle club. They were all complicit in the horrible treatment of this girl, and they shouldn't have had an HGA. He was just as bad as everybody else. So there's that. Oh, there's also pretty graphic scenes of torture if all of those other content warnings weren't enough for you. Then I read Feed, which is Fangs with Benefits #1 by Evita Weiss. I give this 5 stars. It is short, smutty, monster erotica, and it's just incredible. So the characters that we have in both of the short novellas that they have published already, we are getting full-length stories for those same characters, which I think will be fascinating. This one, there's no HEA or anything. They're just, you know, I'll see you at work. They're co-workers. She's a succubus. She orders someone on this dating app, and it's really, whatever your preferences are, you can find somebody to satisfy them, and it's just a business arrangement type thing. And her work nemesis shows up. He's a death moth fairy, which is very interesting. He is non-binary, and the use of he, him pronouns and they, them pronouns are like really fluidly used within the book, which I just found perfection. And they get kinky. There's some BDSM elements, some collar elements, because otherwise she will literally suck the life force out of him. So it's a safety thing, and she kind of hates him, they kind of hate each other, and they are burning up. Then I read Magic Triumphs, which is Kate Daniels' #10, the last one, by Ilona Andrews. I gave it 5 stars, of course. This was in a vlog, a 24-hour reading vlog. I just loved this series so incredibly much. I have Blood Air checked out from the library, which is the continuation with her ward, and I just adored it. I thought the ending was fantastic. Were there twists that I saw coming? Yes. Did I cry when the twists happened anyways? Yes. Yes, I did. Even though I knew what was gonna happen, I still cried. And it was just so incredibly good. I loved it. Urban fantasy romance series, just top notch, top tier, gold. Absolutely read it if urban fantasy romance holds any interest for you whatsoever. And I will say, this was the 10th book, the final book in the series, and I did really feel like this series got better as it went along. And also, quite a few times, you're really going to want to read the 0.5s. So sometimes they follow a completely different couple. In fact, often they follow a completely different couple who are side characters in the story, and each one would be a different side character, but usually events happen. You can read it just 1 through 10, not reading any of the 0.5s. But the ones that I did read the 0.5s for, I felt like it added to it. So whenever I do a reread of the series, I will read all of the 0.5s. So then I read Forbidden Fling, which is Secret Fantasy #1 by Kat Taylor, which is Katie Robert, is her pen name for erotica. There is no HEA, so that is the main difference. I gave it 5 stars. It was short. It was a novella. It is her cheating with her boyfriend's dad, whom her boyfriend brought his dad and his frat buddies on vacation with them. And they were going to have long distance anyways, so she didn't see the relationship going anywhere, but he really just didn't care about her pleasure anymore, and daddy stepped in, and it was really good. Then I read I Married a Lizard Man by Regine Abel. So I originally gave this 5 stars, but I then lowered it to 4 stars. This is an alien romance, and it is very sweet and not a lot of stress. It's, you know, a really cute kind of marriage of convenience that is done through a dating agency. The seer told him that he had to marry an outsider. She is a third daughter on a farming planet, and the third daughters don't have any land. They're kind of a burden. They need to go do something else. So she ends up getting matched with him. And okay, so I have a little bit of an issue. Very sweet story, but the lizard people are indigenous to this planet, and before, by an evil corporation, they were enslaved and forced to be farmers, and it kind of destroyed the ecosystem, and there was a lot of pollution, a lot of issues. So you can kind of see the stance against colonialism and against giant corporations, capitalism, things like that. Okay, but this lizard people tribe is very much obviously indigenous to the planet. They are crafters and hunters and gatherers. They are not farmers because of the history of slavery. They're very anti-farming, obviously, and also because it wasn't ethically done. Well, so she's a farmer, so they let her be, but they like have a lot of issues with it. But my issue is she just so neatly in a bow saves everything. Everything is her. And one, her mate, the lizard guy that I can't remember his name, he wasn't really necessary for anything, right? There was no plot points where he saved the day. It was always her. And it kind of came off as white savior, honestly. And even if you want to, you know, not view it that way, because obviously we're talking about an alien species, we're not talking about a real group. It still is just very convenient where she saves the day for everything. Solutions were just so convenient. Then I read Love in the Streets by Ashley Nicole, and I gave this book 3 stars. She is the daughter of a criminal kingpin. She's a doctor. She is a genius, a literal genius, and because of that, finished high school like 12 and stuff like this, but she never quite developed her ability to have relationships as well as her genius, and she has a very toxic sister who's just being the worst. And so she's very successful career-wise. She ends up falling for a criminal in her father's organization, and there's a twist, but just kind of all of the conflicts in this I thought were dumb and didn't make sense. There's a content warning for cancer for a loved one. I loved their banter, I loved their dialogue, but I really just had a lot of issues with the conflicts. Then I read Drag Me Up, which is Gods of Hunger #1 by R.M. Virtues. I gave this 3 stars. So these books I read for a reading vlog, the Giving DNFs a Second Chance. This is a Black, queer, Hades and Persephone retelling. Persephone is trans and is contemporary. The relationship is pretty insta-love. I felt like the descriptions of all of the side characters and all of the politics and the city was a little bit heavy-handed. I didn't think that we really needed all of that, and I found it to be kind of boring and skimmed through those parts. Their relationship I enjoyed, but I thought that they definitely had some communication issues that just would have really bugged me personally. I would have had a big issue with them if my significant other, you know, was just not giving me information. Like, I would have a huge issue with that, and so that affected my enjoyment, but the characters themselves were really cute and sweet to each other. Then I read 3 Wishes by Kristen Ashley. I originally gave this 3 stars and then I lowered it to 2. This is a second chance romance. Her parents die and she goes back home. Turns out she's pregnant. Also, through a lot of very convenient and odd series of events, she can't get a hold of him and he never finds out that her parents died. He just thinks that she ghosted him. She is told that he is dead, and so she, you know, becomes a single parent, moves on with her life. And also their family has a genie. She is the result of a genie wish because her parents were infertile and they wished for her, and genie made her perfect, but he also wanted her to be humble, so he gave her issues. So So she doesn't see that she's beautiful because she was overweight growing up and dealt with a lot of bullying through that, and obviously that can affect your self-worth and your perception of yourself in ways that it changing can't heal. But you know, she was gorgeous and didn't see it at all, and that's always kind of frustrating for me. The conflicts. One, the fact that they were apart for all these years, completely ridiculous. There was no freaking reason for it. Who would do that? How would all these things perfectly align so that they never spoke to each other after she had to leave? Then when he finds out that she has his child, he just, you know, he treats her like she's an insect, and they're pretty terrible. There's an assault type scene between her and a family member who, you know, is angry at her, but like, no sir, no. And then the final conflict is they're about to get married. He feels like he can't tell her about how he was neglected and a thief as a child, and so he tries to make her fall out of love with him and is completely terrible to her for no reason. So it won't hurt so bad when she leaves him for finding out that he had terrible parents. I was not a fan. But it's a contemporary second chance, single parent, secret baby / situation with a genie. So, you know, more power to you if it sounds good. And I read Immoral Confessions, which is Boys of St. Augustine, #1 by R. Holmes, which I gave 2 stars. This is the bully romance that was the pick for the Taboo Book Club in July that Tamika and Naima were reading. And nobody posted about the live show, and I missed it, and I was pretty mad because I had a lot of thoughts. This is so stupid. No. First of all, it switches from bully to kind of Swedish romance pretty abruptly, which I didn't really have an issue with because I don't love when it gets dragged out. It helps my anxiety to realize that, hey, he's gonna be good to her pretty quickly. However, the whole beginning, all of his bullying was really like sexual assault. I was not a fan. First of all, we were getting it from his viewpoint, and it was his revenge for something that she didn't do. He thought that she told a secret and she didn't. And then when he finds out that she didn't tell the secret, he like completely makes her his girlfriend. Never has the conversation with her that, oh, hey, I found out you didn't actually do this, my bad. Then there's, you know, very cliche twists, but the conversations, oh my God, it was so bad. There are some very scripted conversations between her and the love interest, between her and her abusive and neglectful dad and stepmother. There's fat shaming from the stepmother. And basically it's just like, she's just like, y'all aren't gonna treat me like this anymore. And they're like, okay, I'm sorry. I never meant to do that. And like, that's just not a thing. It was so scripted. All the conversations were so bad. But I will say it was weirdly easily readable. It was an easy read. I did not have a hard time getting through it. And I would say that probably the beginning is better than the ending, although the beginning is when he's like sexually assaulting her. So we have issues, folks. Not a fan. Not a fan. There are also content warnings for revenge porn, child abuse of a side character, death of a sibling, abuse of parents, forced dieting. There's a lot. Then I read Skin, which is Fangs with Benefits #2 by Avita Vice. I gave this 5 stars. This is another of the super short monster erotica. Again, they are getting their full story in the future. And we have a banshee and a gargoyle. They are partners in like a supernatural, not really detective agency, but something like that. And the banshee can sense things if she touches them, but also with a person, and it's always like connected to her, so she has to be really careful not to touch anything because it's overwhelming and also terrible a lot of times, especially with the people. Her partner / bodyguard is this giant gargoyle who can like turn his skin to stone. And we start off with things going wrong and they touch. And since they have already touched, she's kind of like, what if we did it? Because she had sensed some desire from him, and he's actually really good at controlling his emotions, so she's not constantly bombarded with it. He is so sweet. He's so sweet. He gets like angry protective whenever she's reckless and putting herself in danger, but he's so sweet to her. Oh my god. And their size difference was very interesting, and you've got some praise kink happening, and it was so cute and sweet and steamy and so short. Honestly, Vita Vice has a talent because both feet and skin are incredibly short, and you care, and it lives in your head rent free, so pick those up. Then I read A Rake's Vow, which is Sinister #2 by Stephanie Lawrence. I give this 3 stars. It's a historical romance. He is a rake and she's very prim and proper. She's also in charge of her younger brother. There's a mystery happening and everyone is blaming her brother, and she knows that he didn't do it, and Sinister shows up and saves the day, but also there's some communication issues and the mystery was fine. And she doesn't want to marry him because of how her father treated his family, and he doesn't understand, and yes, it was fine. Then I read Taken by the Casino Owner by Isla Chu. This is a very short novella. For the top, I gave it 3 stars. Her ex comes to her and says that her dad has run up a huge gambling debt, and so he wants her for like 30 days to sleep with, and convinces her to give him a second chance, mostly by force. Then I read Possessive Stepbrother by Mink. This is another over-the-top short novella. I gave this 3 stars. So if you're not already really sold on the stepbrother thing, don't pick this one up. So it like opens with him watching her in the shower, and she's like getting off and saying his name, but like she doesn't know that he's there. And they are in the mafia. Her mom and his dad were both pretty powerful mafia leaders and married, and he's had a thing for her for like 5 years. She's 18. The thing for them is mutual, and he's been staying away from her and is very protective, but she's arranged to marry somebody who is his like sworn enemy, and he's like, no, you're not, you're mine. And it's them being inappropriate. And also, he doesn't steal her from the wedding or anything. The wedding doesn't happen, which was disappointing for me that it was all before that, because I love a good wedding stealing scene. But no, that's not what we got. Also, the heroine was weirdly helpless, even though supposedly she's been trained with guns since she's an infant, and literally everybody else around her was very competent, including her mother, but she was just a damsel in distress, which annoys me. And I read The Risk, which is Mind F #1 by St. Abby. I gave this 4 stars. St. Abby is a pen name for C.M. Owens, and she actually died this last week of July, which, you know, was incredibly sad to hear. This is a serial killer falling in love with a FBI agent who is actually on her case. And the author always has a lot of twists and turns, so I expect there to be quite a few twists in the series. She is killing people who abused, raped her and her brother. Her brother died, and so big content warning for that. And she's killing everybody that was involved and taking her pound of flesh. And I read Lured, which is Tribes #3 by Milana Jax. I gave this 4 stars. This is the alien tribe who needs women, and when the women crash land, they believe that they are goddesses. And it's interesting because they are just human women from Earth, but also they're the goddesses, and it's an interesting play between kind of the clueless human and the goddess that helps inhabit her a little bit. It's interesting. This one, she's the goddess of blood and grace and is a prima donna ballerina who is 41. Is a survivor of domestic abuse in the past, which is mentioned, and a younger predator. It was an interesting addition to the series. It did not completely follow the script of the first two. I really enjoyed getting to read about an older main character and a younger predator. It was a good age gap. And that was the last book that I read. So yeah, there's a lot of days with no reading happening, so such is life. I got other things done. But have you read any of these? What was your favorite book of July? All the things, let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.